You've been told that kindness is your greatest virtue, that your gentle heart makes you noble, that your willingness to help others defines your worth. They whispered these beautiful lies into your ears when you were young and impressionable, painting pictures of a world where goodness is rewarded and compassion is currency. You absorbed these lessons like gospel, building your entire identity around the mythology of the good person. But deep in your chest, there's a gnawing ache, the recognition that every act of kindness has been met with expectation, exploitation, and contempt. You feel the weight of being seen as soft, disposable, forgettable. Every door you held open, every favor you granted, every time you said yes when your soul screamed no. These moments have crystallized into a devastating truth. Your most cherished belief about yourself has become your greatest vulnerability. The world has taught you that kindness without teeth is merely an invitation for others to feast on your bones. This is the moment you realize that the person staring back at you in the mirror is not noble. They are naive, not virtuous, but victimized. The beautiful lie is crumbling, and beneath it lies something you've been too afraid to face. You have been complicit in your own destruction. In the theater of human interaction, predators possess an ancient wisdom. They can smell weakness from miles away. Your kindness broadcasts itself like a beacon in the darkness, signaling to every manipulator, narcissist and opportunist that you are prey. They see your compassion and immediately calculate how to harvest it. They recognize that behind your gentle exterior lies someone who has never learned the art of saying no, someone who confuses self-sacrifice with self-worth. These emotional vampires have spent lifetimes perfecting their craft, studying the body language of the broken, the vocal patterns of the desperate, the energy signature of those who give more than they receive. You walk into rooms, unconsciously advertising your availability for exploitation. Your eagerness to please becomes a neon sign that reads, "Here stands someone who will apologize for their own pain." They circle you like sharks drawn to blood in the water, not because you are wounded, but because you wound yourself, repeatedly, predictably, voluntarily. The predator's eye sees what you refuse to acknowledge, that your kindness is not love but fear, not strength but the desperate attempt to purchase acceptance with pieces of your soul. They understand what you have forgotten, that respect is not given to those who ask for it, but taken by those who demand it. Machiavelli understood what your Sunday school teacher never taught you, that in the kingdom of human nature, fear and respect are far more reliable than love and kindness. The prince who rules through benevolence alone finds himself dethroned by those who understand that power is not given, but taken. Your kindness, stripped of strategic thinking, becomes a luxury you cannot afford in a world where others play by rules you refuse to acknowledge. You are bringing flowers to a knife fight. While you concern yourself with being morally pure, others concern themselves with being effective. While you lose sleep over whether you've been fair, they sleep soundly counting what they've taken from you. Machiavelli knew that human beings are fundamentally selfish creatures who will exploit goodness whenever it appears without consequences. He understood that the appearance of virtue must be coupled with the capacity for ruthlessness, that compassion without boundaries is not nobility but stupidity. You have spent years being the benevolent ruler of your own destruction, believing that your subjects would love you for your gentleness while they plotted your overthrow. The Machiavellian truth cuts through your illusions like a blade through silk. Those who mistake kindness for weakness will never stop testing your limits until they find them, and when they discover you have none, they will take everything. Dig deeper into the soil of your beliefs, and you'll find the fossilized remains of every authority figure who taught you to be good, to be nice, to put others first. Your parents, teachers, and society sculpted you into the perfect victim, someone so concerned with being liked that you forgot to demand to be respected. This programming runs so deep that even now, as you feel the sting of being taken advantage of, part of you still believes that being kind makes you morally superior to those who use you. The archaeology of your conditioning reveals layer upon layer of toxic teachings. Turn the other cheek, they said, never mentioning what to do when both cheeks are bloodied. Kill them with kindness, they whispered, not warning you that you would be the one who dies in the process. Every childhood lesson about sharing, caring, and putting others first was a brick in the prison you now inhabit. They taught you that your worth was measured by how much you gave, never by how much you kept for yourself. They convinced you that boundaries were selfish, that self-care was narcissistic, that standing up for yourself was cruel. You became a walking contradiction, someone who would fight to the death for others while surrendering without a battle when it came to yourself. The programming was so complete, so thorough, that you confused martyrdom with meaning, sacrifice with significance. Remember the first time someone mistook your kindness for stupidity. Feel that moment when your generosity was met with a laugh, when your help was received without gratitude, when your loyalty was repaid with abandonment. Each betrayal carved deeper grooves in your understanding. Kindness without boundaries is not virtue, it is self-destruction. You began to see that the people who hurt you most were those you helped the most, and this realization cracked something fundamental in your worldview. The friends who borrowed money and never returned it, the colleagues who took credit for your work, the lovers who consumed your devotion and left you empty. They were not anomalies, but patterns. They were not mistakes, but choices. Your choices. You chose to see the best in people who showed you their worst. You chose to give chances to those who had already wasted them. You chose to believe in potential rather than evidence, in promises rather than actions. The emotional archaeology of betrayal reveals that you were not the victim of random cruelty, but the architect of your own suffering. Every wound was self-inflicted. Every disappointment self-created. The moment you realize this is the moment you can begin to choose differently. But first, you must feel the full weight of every time you abandoned yourself to save someone else. True power begins in the space between stimulus and response, that sacred pause where you choose strategy over impulse, calculation over emotion. You start to understand that kindness, when wielded strategically, becomes a weapon more devastating than cruelty. The moment you stop being predictably kind, you become dangerous. When people can no longer count on your automatic yes, your occasional generosity becomes infinitely more valuable. Unpredictability is the beginning of respect. This is not about becoming cruel. This is about becoming conscious. This is about recognizing that your kindness has been unconscious, reflexive, and therefore worthless. When you give water to everyone, it has no value. When you give it only to those who are truly thirsty, it becomes precious. The silent revolution begins when you realize that withholding your kindness is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your energy, your resources, your sanity, and ironically, your capacity to be genuinely kind to those who deserve it. You learn that the word no is not aggression but self-respect, made audible. You discover that disappointment is not your responsibility, and that other people's emotional reactions to your boundaries are not your problem to solve. This revolution happens quietly, internally, but its effects ripple outward like waves from a stone thrown into still water. Real kindness is not the weak spillage of emotion. It is the calculated deployment of compassion, where it will create the greatest impact. You learn to ration your goodness like a precious resource, giving it only to those who have earned it through their actions, not their needs. This is not cruelty. This is wisdom. You begin to understand that unlimited kindness is as destructive as unlimited cruelty, and that boundaries are not walls but gates that you control. Strategic compassion requires you to think before you feel, to evaluate before you engage, to consider the consequences of your kindness before you offer it. You start asking different questions. What has this person done to deserve my help? How have they shown respect for my previous generosity? What evidence do I have that my kindness will be valued rather than exploited? These questions feel foreign at first, almost heartless, because you have been conditioned to believe that love should be unconditional and help should be automatic. But you discover that unconditional love given to conditional people is simply enabling, and automatic help given to those who take it for granted is simply foolishness. Strategic compassion honors both the giver and the receiver. It ensures that your kindness goes to those who will cherish it, while protecting you from those who would abuse it. This is not selfish. This is sustainable. This is how you love without losing yourself. There comes a moment when you must bury the person you used to be, the one who believed that being good was enough, who thought that kindness would shield you from the darkness of human nature. This death is not a loss but a liberation. You shed the skin of naivety and step into the armor of discernment. The person you become is not harder. They are wiser, not crueler, but more selective with their warmth. The funeral of your former self is both necessary and sacred. You must mourn the death of your innocence, your blind trust, your desperate need to be liked at the expense of being respected. You must grieve the person who gave pieces of themselves to anyone who asked, who believed that their worth was measured by their usefulness to others, who thought that sacrifice was the highest form of love. This person served their purpose. They taught you what doesn't work, what leaves you empty, what makes you a target rather than a force. But now they must die so that someone stronger can be born. The person emerging from this death is not bitter. They are selective, not closed off, but conscious, not afraid to love, but unwilling to love at their own expense. This new version of you understands that self-preservation is not selfishness, but sanity, that boundaries are not barriers but bridges to healthier relationships. In your new world, respect sits at the top of the hierarchy, with kindness as its servant, not its master. You learn that fear is simply respect without affection, and sometimes this is exactly what certain people need to experience from you. Your presence becomes more commanding because it is no longer guaranteed. Your words carry weight because you no longer waste them on those who don't listen. You discover that being feared for your standards is far superior to being loved for your weakness. This new hierarchy changes everything. When respect is your primary currency, you stop accepting payment in false appreciation and empty promises. When respect is your foundation, your kindness becomes a privilege rather than an expectation. People begin to notice the shift. You are no longer the person they can call when they need something moved, money borrowed, or problem solved. You are no longer available for emergency emotional labor from people who ignore you when the crisis passes. Your calendar is no longer at everyone's disposal. Your energy no longer a renewable resource for others to drain. This transformation is uncomfortable for those who benefited from your previous weakness, but it is liberating for you. You discover that when people must earn your kindness, they value it infinitely more than when it was freely given. You learn that scarcity creates value, that boundaries create respect, that your unavailability makes your presence precious. You stand now in the kingdom of your own making, where every interaction is a chess move, every kindness a calculated gift, every boundary a declaration of war against those who would exploit you. This is not the cold detachment of sociopathy. This is the warm calculation of someone who has learned to value themselves above the opinions of others. You are kind to those who deserve it, ruthless to those who mistake your compassion for weakness, and absolutely indifferent to those who offer nothing. The kingdom of self-sovereignty is not built through conquest, but through conscious choice. Every day you choose to honor your own needs before rushing to meet others. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice discernment rather than default generosity. You learn to read people not just through their words but through their patterns, not just through their promises but through their proven behavior. In this kingdom you are both king and castle, both the treasure and the dragon guarding it. You protect what is valuable in you from those who would plunder it without offering anything in return. This is not isolation, this is curation. You surround yourself with people who enhance your life rather than drain it, who appreciate your kindness rather than exploit it, who contribute to your peace rather than disturb it. The kingdom of self-sovereignty is not a fortress, but a filter, not a wall but a careful selection of who gets access to the real you. The ultimate truth reveals itself. Kindness was never the weakness. The weakness was in believing that kindness alone was enough. True strength lies in the marriage of compassion and strategy, of warmth and boundaries, of love and respect. You become someone who is kind by choice, not by default, someone who helps from abundance, not emptiness, someone whose gentleness is backed by the unspoken promise that crossing you would be the last mistake they ever make. This is who you were always meant to become. The integration of these seemingly opposing forces creates something more powerful than pure kindness or pure ruthlessness ever could be. You learn to love fiercely but selectively, to give generously but wisely, to trust completely but carefully. Your kindness becomes a conscious act rather than an unconscious reflex. Your boundaries become expressions of self-love rather than walls of defense. Your discernment becomes a gift to both yourself and others, protecting you from exploitation while ensuring that your genuine compassion goes to those who will cherish and reciprocate it. You are no longer the person who says yes to everything and wonders why they feel empty. You are no longer the person who gives until it hurts and then gives some more. You are someone who has learned that the highest form of love is conscious love. The deepest form of kindness is strategic kindness, and the greatest form of strength is the power to choose who deserves your precious energy and who does not.